program manager on the Cascal MPS project. And the agenda for today is as displayed. Quick intro, an overview, a little bit about and governance, and then next steps. So in terms of introduction, as I said, my name is Mats Johansson. I'm the program manager for MPS. Today, I've also got with me Pallavi, who's the senior manager in payment services. I've got Rishi Amin, who is from architecture and the senior manager of strategy and architecture. I should also have with me Sanket. Now, I can't see who's actually on the call whilst I'm displaying. So Sanket Bhatt is the product owner. I've got Sri, who is assistant product manager, and should also have Charlene Watford, product manager. Sri, if you could start the recording as well, that'd be great. So the primary purpose of this particular workshop is to keep the Cascal clients well informed about the MPS project progress, industry progress, as well as I'm going to show you some high-level milestone, trying to give you a bit of context about why the timelines are as they are. We've also invited some of the technical staff to this meeting, just so clients and technical staff are synchronized in terms of the communication that Cascal provides. It would be great if we can hold the questions to the end of the walkthrough of the pack. I anticipate the walkthrough to be less than 30 minutes, so there'll be plenty of time for question and answers at the end. I can see I'm getting a notification about bad network quality, so I hope you can hear me, and I do apologize if there is disruptions. A little bit about an overview. As you are well aware, MPP currently provides and supports a credit payments or a push payment capability. With MPS, we will be introducing a debit-like payment, and the closest equivalent is really your existing direct entry. We will be providing this facility through payment initiation messages, where a customer will authorize payments, both future and recurring. There will be a massive database, central database, storing all of these mandates. Also, a lot of business rules and new APIs. As you may also understand, I'm sure you do, there will be a large range of different use cases that this new capability will introduce, and I've listed just a few. And the most common of those is probably scheduled and recurring payments. The Cascal Payer Services overview. Cascal will, via an orchestration of mandate-related notifications and messages between Cascal and our clients and the NPP mandate management systems, will provide an easy plug-in to or for the client's digital channels. We are adding MPS services, of course, to the existing MPP payment services and infrastructure. And as part of the MPS solution, we offer end-to-end mandate operations, such as amendment, status change, porting. The Cascal Managed Service overview, as I mentioned before, it's built on the existing MPP system, and the hub has been updated to support mandate data, disputes and payment exceptions, of course, and the back office support team will continue to support the client's teams. We will provide reports for reconciliation of mandates. And of course, Cascal continues to collaborate with our clients. In terms of the MPPA mandated timelines, this is a very, very high level view. Construction is basically going on up until October 21. Cascal deploy its changes on 30 or 31st of October 21. There are two particular phases in the middle of the slide indicated by these two arrows where I'm circling my cursor. And they are basically a Cascal activity. So it's not anything with the clients. Those activities are broken up into two portions where Cascal will, in separation, test against the central database its changes, and then the buddy testing, the later part of the testing, is with other participants in the network. What's far more interesting to you, of course, is this slide and the client delivery timeframes. Swaggers, or the technical documentation for payer services, is already available on the development hub, so you can have a view of those even today. And they are in a pretty mature state. Whilst not final, they are in a pretty mature state. APIs, test APIs, will be available from end of February. And the intent of these arrows is that the left-hand side of the arrow is showing a light version of those APIs, and APIs will be maturing as we move towards the right of these arrows. With other words, by June, those APIs will be fully matured and tested. Integration testing is slated to start around 1st of July and going through to end of August. So we'll be very keen to hear from you, of course, when you are keen to commence that testing in your test windows. Onboarding will start, of course, after Cascal have deployed our code to production, and it is in the month of November 2021 that we are looking to onboard you. Again, very interested to understand your Windows implementation windows available. In terms of documentation, the product description will be released to clients or to you before Christmas. The business consideration document will be released together with the APIs in February. CX guidelines, I believe, have been shared through the developer webinar that was held from memory towards the end of October. They will also be uploaded to the hub, and I think that's work in progress. So in terms of technical documentation, Swaggers we've covered. The developer guide is also slated to be released in February 2021. However, I have taken or will take an action to look into whether that can be released in a similar concept to the APIs, where we release a light version or a draft version early and a fully matured version in February. So I'm looking into if we can achieve this. That will, of course, help you to get context and maybe commence your work a bit earlier. Where can I see these documents? I think it's old hat for most of you, but for the sake of it, technical documentation will be on the developer hub. Word documents typically on the Cascal portal, such as product description. When am I getting the documentation? I do think we have covered already, so I'm going to skip that piece and go over to governance. We will assign an implementation coordinator to each client, and who will be the primary contact for this project. Of course, you can contact me as well if there are any issues or if there's a need arise. Of course, we also got the account managers and the support, Cascal support email address where you can raise issues and contact us as well. The implementation manager will be responsible for communication to clients via webinars on a quarterly basis, and the next webinar is slated for March 2021. And it will also schedule workshops with service providers at which the solution architect will also be present. The implementation coordinator will schedule fortnightly workshops, so to provide project updates, discuss issues and risks, etc. A little bit more about governance in terms of Cascal project monitoring. There is an internal Cascal steering committee that meets on a monthly basis, and the senior Cascal leadership team attends that meeting together with other key senior Cascal staff. Cascal provides on a monthly basis status reporting to MPPA, as does every other participant in the network, so MPPA can collate and understand the overall progress made on the MPS project. We also attend the MPPA steering committee for this particular project. In terms of risks, I've called out one risk which is definitely a risk, and that's in terms of an industry delay. And that is if a large number of participants in the network are able to meet the mandated milestone dates, then there is a potential for a delay to the entire program. However, it is worthwhile stressing I don't have any such information at this point that is a risk that is close to coming to be. So with any large program of this nature where there is a large number of participants, I think we always have this kind of risk. I also just wanted to highlight there's been a number of workshops that's been held throughout early December and late November. And I think there was a webinar back in October, as I mentioned before, a developer webinar. In terms of the next steps, as I mentioned before, there will be another workshop in March 2021. And what we need from you, the clients, is to understand your release window. Even though it's a year out, I still would like to start that planning very, very early because it's going to be critical. It's a very short time frame where we need to implement a large number of clients' solutions. Hence, that'll be great if you can provide that. Also need or would like to understand and get commitment from each of the clients about where you are at in terms of development cycle. Are you at a funding stage, design stage? And yeah, so I may circle back to this particular item very shortly. Also like to receive dependencies, risks and issues as you see it. I think that'll be very, very helpful to get a comprehensive view of the entire landscape. a variation letter to be returned if you haven't already by 29th of January 2021. And of course, hope to see you in future workshops and meetings. And that basically, oh no, we will also send out a feedback form where you can provide this information, and you should have that by Friday, and it'd be fantastic if you could return your feedback by mid-January. So that concludes basically the presentation. So I want to circle back to this particular item with the clients, where you're at in terms of the MPS readiness. Anyone that wished to go first?
Yep. I'll let you go, Tom, in terms of the I guess the project and the business range.
Yeah, so certainly at this stage, what we can say is there is a funding request currently with my boss, who's the head of product, that just needs to go to our executive group to get signed off on, which also includes the allocation of some resources, human ones, particularly around business analysis, with an aim to kick off that work during January. With respect to the 29th of January and the letter, based on the discussions I've had, I don't think that'll be an issue, and it should be signed and returned by that date. So that's probably, in a nutshell, where we're at right at this very moment. So I expect that funding request to go to executive next Monday.
Thanks, Tom, for that update. That's great.
Maybe from a technology perspective, you may or may not know that our core banking system and our NPP systems are provided by TCS. So, all of the build customization effort on our side will be with TCS. Seaway will have to do the testing system and UAT and other. So in terms of release cycles, we have a major release every quarter. In the period in question, we'll have one around June, another in September, and a final one in November this coming year. So whatever changes are necessary for this will have to be implemented at one of those releases and either toggled off or implemented with an intent to go live immediately. Just looking at the overall timeline, probably the concern I have is this talks about going live with these changes in close proximity to next Christmas. As you may know, the Christmas period is our second busiest time of the year. We have change freezes, as does Cuscal and other things in December. Hard for me to imagine that we'd go live with profound changes to our payments channel in December. Maybe November, coordinated with our final release of the year, final major release. But it would have to be, just looking at the dates speculated, I can't see us going live with this in pre-Christmas in December at this stage. Any thoughts on that, Tom or Blaine?
Yeah, I agree, Ross. I think the concern that Ross articulates is probably the most important one. I find it really interesting that MPPA would target a release and have that implemented by way of a change, even if it's not commercially viable or available, and we're in some kind of pre-proving or proving testing window between December and February 22, where potentially the resources that you need to support those changes and debug or whatever are potentially on leave. And also there's not necessarily an easy way to patch a production system during a moratorium window.
Yeah, I see.
That's great feedback, Tom. Thank you for that, and thank you, Ross. I will certainly raise this risk as part of my status reporting.
Yeah, I'd just like to Oh,
yeah, just
okay.
one other thing to that as well. I understand that the view that they may be taking is because I have read documentation that suggests the commercial implementation, the business development piece of the MPS service isn't until the first calendar quarter 2022. It may be a potential then that CUA, to Ross's point, may be able to do this implementation, but our inherent desire, I think, would be to toggle it off during that period until such time as commercial viability or implementation of MPS is active in the market.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying here. I've heard a similar comment before, but I haven't had that communication directly for MPPA.
It was one of the earlier packs that was provided by Nathan Churchwood.
Right. I will explore that, of course, and I'm actually having a project meeting with MPPA on Thursday. I will raise it there as well in terms of the implementation window.
Thank you.
Totally understand what you're saying about pre-Christmas, etc., and the risks associated. So I will raise it both in the project meeting, but I will also ensure it is in the status report that I provide to MPPA.
Thank
maybe a variant on that risk. The risk to I guess this implementation schedule would be that CUA would be unable to support client launch in December as well due to those risks.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, the other customer client that has TCS core banking system that will also be making these changes, I believe, will be MyState. It would make a lot of sense to coordinate or to have MyState and CUA synchronised in terms of their cycle. We'll no doubt, as we did with the NPP project, we'll no doubt work hand in hand with them in terms of testing and with working with TCS to get a common solution for our systems. So I put that out there as a perhaps a place marker to synchronise the two of us. No,
thank you so much, and I agree 100%, considering that your service provider is the same. Now, I can't see who's on the call, but MyState certainly were invited to this as well. So,
okay. That's it from me. Unless you got something, Glenn.
No, it was more just on the release. It's not necessarily for this one, but we like to schedule releases around Easter and Christmas for some reason. When I say we, I mean MPPA.
Yes, yes, I understand your concern. Do we have anyone from MyState present that may also offer some commentary?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordana from MyState. Our core banking representative on this project couldn't make this meeting, so I can't speak on their behalf, but I will definitely mention it to them and get them to keep their eye out for any communication that's being forwarded around that.
Thank you so much. Pallavi, anything additional that you'd like to discuss?
Sorry, I was on mute. I wanted to check in to see if Fiserv had and TCS, sorry, I think this is TCS were invited to this webinar, I believe, Mats?
That's correct.
I wanted to talk about any dependencies and risks that TCS foresee and what their change windows are, if we haven't already covered that.
All change windows are driven by customer. So in this case, like Ross and Tom put it. So we would be driven by the release cycle, what we have at CUA. If that answers your question.
Yep. And so do you foresee any other do you have any feedback or any other risks or dependencies that you'd like to call out after you've seen our schedule? What are your thoughts, and how are you feeling in terms of commitment? Do you have everything that you need from Cuscal for you to be able to support your clients?
At this moment, we just have the swaggers, right? We don't have anything else beyond it. So it's a difficult question to answer just by sharing swagger documentation and then speaking about the risk profile. So once probably we start getting into simulating these services with either the mock interfaces or the test interfaces which you might put up, at that point probably we can make more judged comment on what risks we foresee.
Okay, so in terms of the funding requests that your clients are taking up to their executives, you've been able to provide like cost estimates which are part of that funding request, or maybe that's something that the clients can clarify. Is that just the initial funding request, and the process from here is waiting for the core banking service provider to provide their scope of work?
Yeah, basically the documentation that's gone up to Exco at the moment it outlines what we'll call seed funding, with the balance of it once the analysis is done and we receive formal quotes. So yeah, we're giving them a very high level estimate of the kind of resources that we need. That comes with a general dollar amount, but more specifically, what we're seeking is seed funding to bring accuracy and, I suppose, a true value to the work that's got to be done.
Okay, great, thank you. So I think at this point, with the information provided, TCS, you're comfortable with the information currently provided, but looking towards more information so you can highlight further risks and dependencies. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all from me, Matt. Oh, sorry.
I'll just, sorry, thank you. It's Glenn here. So yeah, I'll just jump in. I think the two key pieces of documentation for us is around that business documentation that you mentioned, Matt, and that developer guide. And I think Phil from MyState's been in touch, and he touched on it about releasing a draft one, because the swagger and the technical information as part of the APIs doesn't give you that full context. Yes, we can overlay it with the that CX that's been provided, but it's all around the exception flows and retries and all that kind of information. That would be really important for us as well.
Yes, and I've had similar feedback from other clients as well. So I am seriously looking at trying to release that developer guide a lot earlier if I can. So in a draft version at least, so give you a bit of context, understand the issue. I may also add to all of that, in order to, if we can assist in any way by providing information to firm up your funding request when you get to that point, please let us know, because we are happy to schedule a workshop and work through the items around where you may have questions. So that certainly is something, if please put it in the feedback form, because we're here to assist and make life as easy as possible for you guys. Rishi, anything you want to add?
Nah, nothing specific. Sorry, took me a while to take off.
That's all right. All right, if there are no other questions, we may be able to close this workshop early. I'll just give you all an opportunity. Are there any other questions before we close? I'll take the silence as no, and I thank you for your time and looking forward to work with you throughout this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.